You're watching the ANEC Sports Podcast on YouTube. The show starts right now.
Welcome to episode 32 of the ANEC Sports Podcast. My name is Sam Frick. I'm the founder and editor at Around the Northeast Corner, covering schools across Northeast Indiana and Elkhart County. New setup here in the ANEC Sports office desk, if you would, and a nice change of scenery, so to speak, for me as we come down to the last episodes of the first season of the ANEC Sports Podcast. And we're recording here May 25th, 2025. Be well past 10 o'clock by the time we get done with this portion of this episode here. And it's been a busy day here in Indiana. Indy 500 Sunday, always a tremendous holiday here in the Hoosier State. The 109th annual Indianapolis 500 Motor Speedway, as Alex Palou, the car, won the Indianapolis 500 Motor Speedway. And right now with the Indiana Pacers, they are going into the fourth quarter against the New York Knicks, up 80-70 are the Pacers in Game 3 of the Eastern Conference Finals. They hang on for 12 more minutes in that contest. The Pacers will go up 3-0 in the Eastern Conference Finals, and no NBA team has ever come back from a 0-3 deficit in the history of the NBA playoffs, which dates back to 1946-47 season. And I'll be honest with you, if the Pacers go out I'll be honest with you, if the Pacers sweep the Knicks, it's going to be an anticlimactic way for TNT to end their run of national coverage of the NBA. That is for sure. It's been a great time to be an Indiana sports fan. The Indiana Pacers, the Indiana Fever, right? Fun time right now for Indiana sports fans. Just need to get the Indianapolis Colts to get their crap figured out. But also, I do want to mention this real quick as we're talking about Indiana sports. I do want to wish our condolences to the Irsay family. Rest in peace to Jim Irsay. Sad time right now for the Colts. Heavy hearts right now for the franchise. Anyway, let's get to the talk around the corner, as we're going to divide this episode into two parts. So part one will feature the softball and girls track. And then part two will feature baseball, boys track, and then anything else we want to talk about for part two. We'll have a couple of guests for this portion of the episode. Hopefully we get a couple more for the next part of the episode, but we'll see how things go from there. So for now, let's get to the talk around the corner. And let's begin with softball, as they start the state tournament this week. In fact, they start tomorrow. So that's why we're divided into two parts. First off, I do want to make sure I give out the conference champions for our area schools. I want to give a congrats to the South Adams Starfires, repeating as ACAC champions, as they win it outright because of the tiebreaker over Wood. They win the ACAC. Eastside wins the NECC outright despite losing to Central Noble on Saturday. Central Noble did lose to Cherubusco on Friday, which allowed Eastside to clinch the conference outright. Also, congrats to Leo once again, the Northeast State, repeating as conference champions again for the Leo Lions. And I believe, if I recall right, in the SAC, I believe the SAC was won by Bishop Dwayner. Is that correct? I want to make sure I remember that. I believe that was Bishop Dwayner that won the conference in softball. Yeah, they were undefeated in softball. Keep in mind, Homestead and Carroll are independent in every other sport except for basketball and football. Just want to make sure I mention it here. And Mishawaka wins their third consecutive NLC championship in the process. And then TRC, Waco had a nice year in the TRC, but I believe, I'm trying to remember exactly who won that conference in softball. Hold on a second here. That conference championship went to Rochester. So congratulations to the Rochester Zebras on winning the TRC softball championship, as the New York Knicks are cutting the Pacer lead down to 7 with 10:40 to go in the fourth quarter. Yes, I'm keeping track of both things going on at the same time. That's about that. And when you look at what's coming up for the softball state tournament, obviously a lot of softball games going on right now as we speak in the 2025 softball state tournament. Let me check get the right year in place. So just want to mention real quick some of the sectionals that we are going to be keeping an eye on this season. So we'll go ahead from 4A down to 1A. So the sectionals we're going to be looking at this year or covering, we're going to be taking a look at we're going to be looking at sectional 4, sectional 5, sectional 6 in 4A. 3A, we'll be taking a look at sectional 20, 21, 22, and 24. And then class 2A, we'll take a look at sectional 34, 35, 36, 38, and sectional 40. And then in 1A, we will be taking a look at sectional sectional 51, 52, and 55. Those would be the sectionals we'll be covering in this postseason and whatnot. Taking a look at sectional 55, hosted by North Miami, and on paper, I would consider North Miami to be a pretty heavy favorite. On paper, 15-8 on the season are the North Miami Warriors. I would consider them a pretty big favorite there. Daleville's pretty solid. Southwood did finish 7-2 in conference. They are a team that could be interesting, but I would consider North Miami to be a pretty heavy favorite this year in that sectional. 52 is just a 4-team sectional. I would say Fremont would be a heavy favorite to win the 1A 52. And then 1A 51. Taking a look at 1A 51. Not too familiar with these schools. I would probably say South Central Union Mills would be seen as a pretty heavy favorite in that one. And then 2A sectional 40, hosted by Blackford. This is hold on, trying to think here real quick here. Madison Grant 18-9, they're a team to keep an eye on there. Let's see here. Not a lot of fantastic teams in this sectional. Alexandria is 17-1. I would probably say more than likely Alexandria will be I would consider them to be a heavy favorite in that sectional. Their only loss this year came to Mississauga by 1 run, 6-5. I believe Mississauga, I believe they won the conference, if I remember right. No, they share the conference. I apologize. They share the CIC with Ole Miss. So that's their only loss so far this year, and that's a non-2A school. Yeah, I would consider Alexandria to be a heavy favorite in that sectional. Sectional 38 at Oak Hill. Another intriguing sectional there. Let's see here. My guess would be Oak Hill would be a favorite. But then again, you have Rochester, who just won the conference in the TRC in 19-4. So I could see this kind of go either way between Rochester and Oak Hill in that sectional. I'm probably leaning towards Rochester at this point to win that sectional. And then 36 hosted by South Adams. I think 36 will be a competitive sectional. I like Woodland, although they've been slumping at times. They haven't quite played at the level they played at the start of the year, but Woodland's got a very dangerous lineup with Lexi Metzger and Alyssa Harvey and Lillian Riley and Jay Lichty. Woodlands can put up some runs. Do they have the pitching necessarily? I don't know. But they definitely have the offense. And as we're speaking right now, the New York Knicks have just cut the Pacers' lead down to 3. It looks like Cat also drew the foul. Is that right? Sorry, I'm getting a little distracted here. I'm trying to watch the Pacers. But it looks like Cat scored and then drew the foul. So he's going to try to complete the 3-point play. But yeah, Woodland will definitely be a team to watch. Wellington has played better softball as of late. So I don't think that's a gimme for the Woodland Warriors in that opening game. And then you got Adams Central, South Adams bound of Adams County. Cat missed the free throw, so I'm kind of doing multitasking here. And it looks like a jump ball. So unlike high school, there's an actual jump for the tip. We'll see what happens there. I mean, Indiana led by as many as 20 points in that contest. South Adams just won the ACAC. Obviously, they're going to be a team to keep an eye on. They just made it to semi-state last year, and they returned basically everybody back, including their starting pitcher, Addie Baker. So South Adams will certainly be a favorite, and they're also the host, so they'll be favored there. Whitco in that bottom half of the bracket, I think they have some pitching. Addie Gar, maybe Whitco could be a team that could sneak up on South Adams in this sectional. But I would say more than likely it's going to come down to Woodland or South Adams to win that sectional. And your guess is as good as mine who wins that sectional. I know South Adams won convincingly in the regular season, but that was a close game really up until I think the fifth inning where South Adams scored like 8 or 9 runs in that inning. So I think that one's going to be a much closer game this time around. Sectional 35 hosted by Prairie Heights. And we spoke with the Central head coach, David Pearson, previewing that sectional. This is going to be a very difficult sectional, I think, to predict on paper. But I would say Eastside will be favored in this sectional, although I don't think they're going to be massive favorites just because Central Noble is certainly a threat in this sectional. Cherubusco is an intriguing team as well. They've already played Eastside twice because they played in the conference tournament just like Central Noble. But it does set up very nicely of an Eastside versus Central Noble or Busco or Westview. Keep in mind, Central Noble does not have a gimme first-round matchup with Westview. That's going to be an interesting one. Prairie Heights and Lakeland, that'll be a toss-up game. But I don't like either of those teams' chances against Eastside. So to me, it's going to come down to Eastside or either a Central Noble, Busco, or Westview. To me, I feel like Eastside and Central Noble are the two best teams in the sectional. But I do think the Central Noble's path to the finals will be quite difficult with Westview and Cherubusco. Sectional 34 hosted by Bremen. Bremen normally is a powerhouse in the state tournament, but this is a down year for Bremen. They're only 10-16. I don't expect too much in that one. I would say Winnemac would be the favorite in that sectional in 34. And then 3A sectional 24 hosted by Delta. And Jay County's had a great season this year in softball. They were the team that kind of spoiled Heritage's run to the conference. And Jay County has only lost, twice in ACAC play. That's their only losses on the season. They're 19-2 on the season, having a nice year for Jay County. They will take on Delta in the opening round, 8-15. You never know with Delta, though, in the postseason. So it's not a sure bet that they'll get past Delta. And when you also look at this sectional, Yorktown is a perennial contender in softball, 17-4 in the season. There's a chance we could see Yorktown, Jay County once again for the sectional finals. Connorsville has the bye in the top half of the bracket, 22-10. If there's a team that could potentially pull off an upset on Yorktown, it could be Yorktown there. And in the bottom half of the bracket, you have Hamilton Heights, who's 11-10. I would say Jay County will probably play for the championship in the sectional. I like Yorktown or Jay County. This is going to be a tough one because I think Jay County has the pitching, and I think they're a pretty balanced team overall. They could potentially make things interesting in the sectional, although traditionally the sectional has went through Yorktown over the past several years or so. And I'm trying to remember, did they play Yorktown this year? I don't think they did. So I'm fascinated to see, just how good Jay County really is against a team like Yorktown. But I think this is going to come down to those two teams. I'm going to lean towards Yorktown in this one. They have been the powerhouse over the years in softball, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if it's Jay County as well. Sectional 22 hosted by Norwell. They made it all the way to semi-state last year. And I believe they went to Oak Hill last year, if I remember right. Because Oak Hill was in 3A last year. Now they've dropped to 2A. So New Haven's taking on Mississinawa in that top half of the brackets. Ole Miss should win that game. I'm not concerned about Ole Miss in that first round matchup. Marion will face the winner of those two. Marion I'll be honest, Ole Miss will probably play for the championship. Belmont Norwell. This was a sectional championship game last year, if I recall. And now that's a first round matchup. That might be the best matchup on paper in this sectional. I'm going to give Norwell the edge, but Belmont certainly has the pitching to make this intriguing. But I do like Norwell's offense with Reese Frawhider and Kayla Watkins. And I believe they have Michaela Yund, if I remember right. She's still back on that team this season. And as I'm going through the Norwell Knights, the New York just took the lead with it's like a 3 from Cats. That's not good. Pacers were up by 20 early on. And then don't forget the freshman for Norwell. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted here. Mia Kurtz leading the way in batting average of adding over 460. Hopefully the Knicks don't lose before I finish this recording here. But anyway, to kind of get back on track here, Norwell certainly will be an intriguing team. And then you got Belmont with Bella Ashley and Emily Blakey for the Belmont Braves. I think that'll be an intriguing first-round matchup in that sectional. And then whoever wins that game would face, I believe they face Heritage. And Heritage will probably be a team to also keep an eye on. I would say if it's Norwell Heritage, I think that would be an exciting second-round matchup. Heritage got off to a great start to the season. I think they only lost a couple games through the first month of the season. They got into a bit of a skid going into the state tournament. Heritage had an opportunity to win the ACAC outright because of tiebreakers. And unfortunately, they lost to both Jay County and Bluffton, resulting Heritage to finish losing the last 3 conference games. And right as I say that, Indiana is up by 1 with 7:20 to go. They just missed a 3. Where am I at? And so, yeah, Heritage had lost 4 in a row until they beat Huntington North over the weekend on Saturday. So hopefully Heritage can get back into the swing of things. But right now, if I have to say who wins this sectional, I would probably give the edge to the Norwell Knights. But I can see this go either way with them or Heritage. Ole Miss should not be ruled out either. Sectional 21 hosted by DeKalb. As you have East Snowball, DeKalb. They're down to 3A this time around. And now they're in a different sectional this time around. They were previously in sectional 20. Now they're in 21. I would say, all things considered, Leo will be heavy favorites to win this sectional, although that first round matchup with Bishop Dwayner will be very intriguing. If there's any team that's going to knock off Leo, per se, maybe Bishop Dwayner, maybe East Snowball. I would say East Snowball probably the next closest team to that of Leo. Garrett has a promising future, over 20 wins on the season. Their most successful season since 2010. They went 28 on the regular season. I just think Leo's a really good team right now with Leah Chappelle, Malia Lape, Lucy Schatz, Carly Funk. I just think Leo's just such a talented team with they're 22-4 in the season. Great pitching, very good defense as usual for Leo. I just don't know if any other team can really beat Leo. I mean, Dwayner is a team that could be interesting. I would keep an eye on that matchup with Bishop Dwayner in the first round. But if they take care of Dwayner, I think Leo will probably win that sectional, but we'll see. Sectional 20 hosted by Fairfield. Now you have Columbia City in the sectional. Let's see. Top half of the bracket. Let's see. Tippy Valley has the bye in that bracket. They're 11-10. I would lean towards Northwood getting past West Snowball and Tippy Valley to get to the sectional finals. I actually like Columbia City to get to the other half of the brackets. Fairfield certainly will be an intriguing team. They got some power on that lineup with Madison Jones, and then Faith Berkey's a respectable pitcher for the Falcons. I just don't know if they quite have enough against a very talented Columbia City team. That team of just short of win the Northeast States, 15-5 on the season. They got Emma Hiss, the Grace College commit for Columbia City on this team. They got Hannah Madrid on this team for Columbia City, Madeline Brady for Columbia City as well. They got a very solid roster at Columbia City. I think they are probably the favorites in the sectional, but I think Northwood will be intriguing for sure. Northwood can score a lot of runs, and Fairfield has a pretty good power in that lineup, especially with Madison Jones setting the new program record for home runs in the season. I think she has over 12, if I remember right. So I think Fairfield will be an intriguing team to watch in that one. And then looking at Class 4A Sectional 6, hosted by Huntington North. I don't think they're going to win that sectional this time around. Last year, Huntington North won the sectional. I think they won it the last 2 years. Huntington North has just one win this year, and they went winless in the Northeast State. They actually just lost to New Haven. So Huntington North definitely not going to win the sectional this year. This is honestly Homestead's sectional to lose. They are heavy favorites. They are easily the best team in that sectional. 20-6. I don't think anybody has a winning record in that sectional. Homestead should win this one. And then sectional 5, hosted by Carroll. A bit more competitive sectional this over here with Snyder, Northside, Northup, and Carroll. I like Snyder in that part of the bracket, top half of the bracket. Bottom half of the bracket is a bit more challenging with Northup and Carroll. I'm going to take Carroll. I just like the pitching of Carroll much more than that of Northup, which sets up a Snyder-Carroll sectional final. I just love Carroll's team. I think they have an excellent rotation with the Carroll Chargers. I think they got a talented roster that they build around with Lauren Kirkpatrick and the Danley girl for Carroll, Taylor Danley. She just picked up a no-hitter over the weekend for Carroll, the junior. So, and then you got their ace in the rotation, so if you would, in Amelia Garcia for Carroll. So I like Carroll in that one. Meanwhile, the Knicks are up by a point with 6:50 to go, and they have the ball. Keep in mind, the Pacers have never won when they had to play a game on the same day as Indy 500. Remember, the Pacers were up by 20 points early on this game, so definitely the momentum shifted in the second half, and the Knicks just got to stop here. So could be bad news for the Pacers if they don't get some shots to fall. And right now, Aaron Neesmith's not in the lineup right now as he suffered looks like an ankle injury right now during the game. I think it was in the second quarter. I believe it was. I'm not too sure when it was. But Pacers just got to stop. So they're still only down by a point with 6:10 to go as I try to wrap up the softball portion of the talk around the corner. And then lastly, sectional 4 hosted by Goshen. You look at this sectional here at Goshen. Let's see here. Elkhart, Concord will be an intriguing first-round matchup. Goshen, Warsaw. I think Warsaw will be favored, but these are two teams that are below 500. Kind of a toss-up game there. And then you got Northridge in the bottom half of the bracket awaiting the Elkhart Concord winner. They're 13-10. It's kind of a toss-up. I have no idea who actually wins this one. I could see this go either way. I could see Concord win it. I could see Elkhart win the sectional. I could see Northridge win this sectional as well. Probably the most the most unpredictable sectional in the sectionals we're covering this year. And fittingly, it's the last one we're talking about. So that's what it looks like for softball. And then for girls track, let me briefly get to girls track. I want to try to get this one much quicker so we can get to our interviews with David Pearson of Central Noble Softball, as well as Cody Waite, the head girls track and field coach at East Noble. Speaking of East Noble, once again, they won another sectional championship. I believe that's their fifth in a row, if I remember right. But either way, sectional 8, I should say, hosted by Angola. East Noble finished first in that sectional with 113.7 points. Lakeland finished second at 85. Fremont finished third at 70 points. Impressive performance for the Fremont Eagles. West Noble fourth at 66.2 points. Angola in fifth at 45.2 points. Lakewood Park 43 points in sixth place. I think they had a relay team at Lakewood Park that just won a sectional for the first time ever. I mean, let me just for a brief shout out here real quick. Hold on a sec. I believe that was their 4x400. Yeah, 4x400 relay team at Lakewood Park won that sectional championship. And then to do sectional 9 hosted by Northrop. And that sectional went to the Carroll Chargers with 140.5 points. Dwayner finished second at 93. Northrop in third at 89.5. Columbia City in fourth at 79.5. And Concordia in fifth. And Leo tied for fifth place at 66.5 points. 10th place went to, Sectional 10 hosted by New Haven. Excuse me. That sectional was won by Homestead with 166.5 points. Norwell in second at 91.75 points. Huntington North in third at 88. Lures in fourth at 53 points. South Adams in fifth place at 48.75 points. And then Heritage in sixth at 47.75 points. And I believe there's 2 more sectionals to go. Yep. We have sectional 11 at Marion. That sectional was won by Oak Hill with 166 points. Marion in second at 78 points. Lufton in third at 76 points. Eastbrook in fourth at 70. And Madison Grant in fifth at 63 points. And lastly, sectional 12, hosted by Delta. And that sectional was won by Yorktown with 152.5 points. Delta in second at 129 points. Jay County in third place at 106 points. Wapahani in fourth with 61 points. Girls track regionals will take place on Tuesday, May 27th. And the regionals we'll be keeping an eye on are Warsaw, Carroll, and I believe that's it. I believe it's just those 2. Keep in mind that after regionals, it's off to state, which will be hosted by IU in Bloomington, Indiana. And don't forget, tomorrow we'll be talking about the boys track recap, looking at sectionals, looking at what happened in sectionals, and then we'll also take a look at what's to come in regionals. Their regionals is on May 29th. So we have a little bit of wiggle room to go on the boys side as well. Obviously, we'll talk with Cody Waite today to discuss East Snowball, recap the girls' track season and whatnot. And so stay tuned for the second part of our show where we'll talk about and recap baseball. We'll recap boys' track, and we'll look at anything else potentially. If we don't have any guests, we may have some time to fit in some other stuff along the way. Also, one last thing as I'm posting this video, today, May 25th, is the last day to submit suggestions for the 3rd annual ANEC Athlete of the Year, male and female. After today, we will no longer take a look at suggestions. We will make our decisions, and we will post our 50 finalists for the ANEC Male and Female Athletes of the Year. So that will do it for the talk around the corner. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my interviews with Cody Waite and David Pearson. And until part 2 of episode 32, I say so long. I'm here with the head girls track and field coach of the East Snowball Knights, Cody Waite. As Cody, your NEA champion Knights had a successful sectional run. We'll talk about that in a matter of moments as you prepare for regionals this week. Cody, how are things going for you on this Sunday?
Oh, they're wonderful. I'm glad to be a part of this. Anything for a fellow Central Noble Cougar, so thanks for having me on.
All right, pleasure. Before we talk about this season, I do want to talk about your time with East Snowball so far. You spent about 11 years as assistant coach, and then you took over as the head girls track and field coach for the 2021 season. So you have about 15 years of experience with this program that has seen a lot of success over the years with East Snowball track and field so far. Can you just briefly just kind of summarize your time with East Snowball and the experience of being part of this program here in East Snowball?
Yeah, the community of Kendallville is just incredible. And I started there in 2010 in the middle school for 3 years, got bumped up to the high school. I helped out with their pole vault a little bit. And they're like, hey, come to high school and help out. And just being a part of that group with Andy Bell and all these incredible coaches, like it's been something special. And that's obviously trickled into other sports as well that I've been a part of. But working with Andy Bell for all those years was a true blessing. And we really created this great coaching staff where everyone was just all bought in. And a lot of those guys are still around today and coaching.
Everything's good here. So my next question for you is, you talked about coaching in your time at Eastern, working with Coach Bell and whatnot. What's your favorite part about coaching this team, whether it's the practices, certain field trips, certain times of the year? What are your favorite parts about being a part of this program?
It's The best part about this, and I'm one of the strength teachers at the high school, so I see a lot of these kids all day. Is track is something that's so great. You get all these different people. We have four of the starters of the girls' sectional championship basketball team that run for us. We have cross country runners, swimmers, gymnasts, volleyball players. You have all these different dynamics, and they all come together to make such a fun team. And what track really does is you get the best out of the kids. You get to really get them out of their shells and get to be with them in great moments, the worst moments. And it's not like a football or a basketball where you're just pushing on to the next play. You're in a high intensity situation. It's just a more paced out thing where you get to humanize these athletes. And that's my favorite part, because they'll flat out tell you, Kate David, she's a senior for me. She looked at me dead in the eye and says, I love being here every day, but I hate running. So that really kind of bodes well why they're there. They just love the sport. They love competing. They love being part of a championship team. So they all bring a good dynamic in, and that's what makes it the best part.
Yeah, and that championship aspirations obviously played its part during the season and whatnot, competing in a very difficult conference like the Northeast State. Came into the conference meet, in a very competitive meet, whatnot. You knew this was going to come down to your team in Columbia City. It came down to those final meets of that conference meet where you held on just ever so slightly to repeat as conference champions for the first time since 2019. Talk about how it felt to get the to reclaim that conference championship as you entered postseason play?
Well, it all started at the beginning of the season. We ran on the first ever NEA indoor track meet this year, and we finished third. And coming off of last year's season where we had a lot of success, you could see the stunned look on everyone's faces. And there was a lot of things that we could have done different in that meet. We just got the basketball girls back. Kate David was gone with the flu. Lily Crow was gone on a vacation back in March, but the results still would have been the same. And I remember looking at those girls and telling them, this is a championship team. We're just not ready yet. And as the season went on, Columbia City edged us out at the Northside Relays. They edged us out again at the Turtletown Classic. And as a coaching staff, we sat down and said, we've got this. We just got to play it smart, start moving some pieces around to win this thing. And when we got to that meet, it was a stressful meet. I can tell you a lot of us our phones were dying because we were checking results constantly, making sure where we were at. And it was a chess game at that point. We had to see where we needed to score, get into finals. Doesn't matter where you place. You don't need to be a conference champion. Just score some points. That's always kind of been our motto. You don't have to be the best. Just be the best on our team. And in that motto, all those coaches, they put in the extra effort, the extra hours at practice, because when it got down to it, we got to that 4x4. I just told the girls, hey, we only need to get fifth here. And the smile and the confidence on their face, it's like, let's go get this thing. And as soon as we crossed the finish line, we were conference champs. And that was one of the best feelings because they fought for that. It wasn't handed to them. It wasn't a gimme from the early on in the season. We knew we were going to get it. It took a lot of work to get there, and those girls are tough.
Yeah. And you saw that progress from where you were in the indoor meets and now, and you saw that it's that sense of reward after going through the course of the season, having to go through, because as you know, in track, it's more of a sprint, pun intended there, than it is in like in basketball where it's a 3-month season. This is more of a sprint where you have such a small window there to progress and improve. And obviously you're seeing that, whether if it's the Chloe Gibson or the David girls, Ray and Kate, Joanna Carpenter and Jillian Crow, I believe it was, and all those girls, putting their part in building that team collaborative effort for that team. And obviously, this past week you dealt with the weather, whatnot, up in Angola for your sectional, and you won the sectional once again for the East Snowball Knights. Just kind of talk about reflecting on having to go through a different schedule, having to adapt from the interruption for the weather, and still be able to get the job done and have multiple nights representing your school with good success.
It was one of the most challenging things, and a lot of aspects that just wasn't track. That week after conference, we had the flu and illnesses to hit our team hard. We still were ailing from those as we got into the sectional, but as everything's pushed back a week this year in the school year and the athletic calendar that um, we have finals and stuff going on. AP testing got delayed for us. So these kids are having to rearrange their schedules. So when we were supposed to leave early for the meet on Tuesday, it got pushed back an hour. We got there. We pulled into the parking lot and they postponed it as soon as we got in the parking lot. We're like, oh crap. Okay. And then you're just playing all these scenarios because like the next day doesn't look the best. What are we doing? We're still not healthy. We had to change schedules. We had to have our distance coach drive a minibus up separate because we had girls testing after school. And all that going into it, we knew it's like we're out of sync. The weather doesn't affect us. We practice in snow. We practice in sleet. We do it for a reason because these things happen and they don't change just because you don't want to run in it. But I told the girls going into that meet, we can win a sectional. We can go back to back this year, but don't chase times. This weather is not ideal for times, for heights, for distances. Chase performances. And that's what they did. They went out and performed. And, at first, some of them were discouraged about their times, but then they realized it was raining and windy and gusty. It's like, this isn't normal conditions. Like, we're not used to this in May. So they went out, they got after it, and now they're sectional champions. And, despite being soaking wet and their shoes being soaked for 3 more days, they're pretty proud of themselves, and I'm proud of them.
Mm-hmm. This is Cody Waite, the head girls track and field coach at East Snowballs. They prepare for regionals. The nice thing about this week is you don't have to worry about the rain, and more so, you don't have to worry about sleet and snow like you would be in March, April when the season began. So that's always good news when you get to this time of year as you prepare for Tuesday in the regionals. You're going to Warsaw this time around. In the past, you had to go to Carroll for regionals, but this year the IHSAA reassigned the regional alignments, so to speak. You're now going to Warsaw, and there's a couple of solid programs, going to be in that region with Warsaw and Plymouth, and Whitco's had some nice teams recently coming into those past seasons and whatnot. So, what are you most looking forward to with this new chop opportunity now in Warsaw, and now one round away of having for your team to have opportunity to have multiple girls representing the state finals?
I'm pretty excited. We went to Warsaw in 2013 and 14 before the regional got changed again. So the facilities there are really nice, and I can only imagine they're even better now. It's not too far away. We did like going to Carroll. That is a phenomenal facility. It's right down the road from us, but we're excited for the new challenge. And we've been kind of keeping an eye on some of these teams, Penn, Warsaw, all these schools going into this regional, and we know it's going to be tough. And we really can't reflect on last week's times on the performance sheets because everyone was dealing with the weather. So really we want to go into this thing and chase those. We want a PR. That's what we want to do. Go out, give your best showing. If you perform the best you've ever done, there's nothing you can be upset about because it doesn't matter where you place when you've done the best you've ever done. So that's really our mantra going into the week is, chase those PRs, run the best you can, and whatever happens, happens. Getting to state and track is hard. It's not an easy feat. It's not easy being top 3 in your regional, especially a tough one like Warsaw. So we want to get those girls to their top times. A lot of young ones that are going to be there for us. So it gives them something to chase going into next year. So that's really kind of what we're looking forward to. We have a chance to get a couple girls onto state. So, everyone's going to be fighting tooth and nail for us. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and that indeed, and the spring season starts to wrap up, and that means the end of the 2024-25 school year. Is my final question for you, Coach. As you've been involved in witnessing a lot of historic moments for East Snowball over the past few years or so. Football making the state finals once again in 2024 under Coach Stewart. Girls basketball winning a sectional title for the first time since 2016. Boys basketball showing some improvement, wrestling having some moments as well, and softball looking pretty good as well. Talk about the experience of you being part of this special time right now for East Snowball athletics right now, with what we're seeing, the growth and the rise of East Snowball in a lot of different sports. And I know you've been involved in some successful teams at Central Noble over the years, particularly with. So this is very reminiscent for you right now, it seems.
It's truly it's incredible. To be a part of a good community that supports the way it does, and all these coaches at East Noble are extremely supportive of other things. And I can't ever. I have to pinch myself sometimes just to be a part of a state. The team that went to state in football, I got to coach alongside my best friend Zach. My high school football coach Tipton was there, and that is truly a full circle moment for me from my high school days. And just that town support and culture from going into that state championship was, in the school wide too, is something I'll never take for granted. The other thing too is these coaches at East Noble, they all support one another. They work hard to make sure everyone is staying afloat. Volleyball, like I want all my girls to be good in track, but I want them to be good in volleyball and basketball. And Peyton Hunley, she was a track athlete for us many years ago. She's a phenomenal coach, and she pushes track, and so does Durnell for the boys team, Isaacs for the girls team for basketball. And it's a pretty cool place where everyone's kind of tight knit, and I'm pretty thankful for that. And because of that tight knit community, you start to see that growth in multiple programs, and I'm really proud of that at East Noble.
All right, Coach. Any final words before we let you go here?
I'm just thankful for all you do, Sam, for the northeast part of the state and sports, and really highlighting athletes around here. I really always appreciate it. I always see things being shared, and I love when parents get really involved in voting for the ANEC Athlete of the Week. You see that spread like wildfire, and it means a lot to the kids because I find that highlighting high school sports is a big deal, and I really appreciate all that you do.
All right, Coach or Cody, thank you for so much for your kind words, and good luck as you get ready for regionals.
Hey, thanks so much, and thanks for having me.
I'm here with the head softball coach of the Central Noble Cougars, David Pearson, as his Lady Cougars are going to get ready for sectional play on Memorial Day Monday. So a very quick turnaround from this weekend now until tomorrow. Coach, how are things going for you on this Sunday?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Sam. Also, I'd like to go ahead and say thanks to all the men and women who are currently serving and have served to protect this country of ours in this great Memorial Day weekend.
Amen to that. Thank you, Coach, for that. First question before we talk about this season. You've coached this team now for a couple of years, and you've seen some progress with this team over the years. You had a little bit of a transition year that first year, but the past 2 years, you've seen this team being very competitive, right in the thick of things in the Northeast Corner Conference and whatnot. Just talk about your time with this program as the head softball coach, and maybe kind of add about what makes this team, stand out.
We have a great group of seniors, but in general, we have a great group of girls that have, grown up together and really have come together these last couple years, knowing what the possibility that they can do this season and have done this season also. Worked hard in the off season. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, they've worked hard in the off season. We've hit the weight room. When the IHSAA has their limited contact sessions, we have had a bunch for that and have done well. And they're just really focused.
Yeah, it's a focus group, that is for sure. As this team comes into sectional play 20-5, 8-2 in SEC play. But before we talk about this team specifically, I do want to make sure I mention, your health, right? As very early in the season, you suffered a stroke that just about a couple weeks into that season, and obviously your team had to have been concerned at that time. The community, as small as it is, I'm sure prayers and thoughts and messages came out in your support and whatnot. Just talk about how the care team handled your situation, and then talk about the coaching staff, the players, how they kind of rallied around your recovery process throughout the course of the season.
When we first experienced the stroke, Coach Swank, he was in the hospital visiting me that day that I had it, and it shows more than we're a softball team or he's my assistant coach. It goes deep into my heart that him, my other coaching staff, and all the girls care so much and had a great concern. I got lots of messages from them right afterwards. Are you okay? What do you need? What do you need? It really motivated me, to get back to the field this year. It also, one of the things that I kept telling myself is, if I ask the girls to push themselves during a game, during a practice, during a weight session, I better do that myself when I'm going through my rehab. And the girls, the coaching staff, the community, and my family is really what motivated me to get back onto the field this year.
Mm-hmm. And it certainly had an impact on you and your loved ones and whatnot. And as things progressed with the season, your team had encountered opposing teams sending heartfelt messages and ways to which to give support. Shortly after we found out about you having the stroke, Bluffton, for instance, had these like red ribbons, right, and to give supports of breast cancer awareness and whatnot. And so obviously you have these types of support throughout the community, because obviously it's more than just softball as well. Do you still get those interactions even every now and then from people in the softball community, just to check on you and see how things going for you?
Oh, I do weekly. Coach Krieg from Whitco, he texts me. Coach Adele from South Adams, he texts me how I'm doing. Coach Williams from Westview, and just different coaches, also not necessarily in this area that I know from other areas, even umpires. I get messages from umpires. How's it going? Are you taking it easy? That type of thing. And around the conference, it was nice when we played Garrett. Garrett had the red wristbands on in support of stroke awareness. And what Bluffton did when I was in the hospital it was phenomenal for them to do that.
Mm-hmm. And so now we talk about this team, 20-5 on the season so far, one of the top best teams in Central Double history for softball and whatnot. And when you look at this team, Coach, this is an experienced team. It's a team with talent. It's an older team that's learned from these past couple years. Obviously, we talked about Central Noble softball. Grace Swain has been a key part, not just on the pitching, but also with her approach in the plates. You also have Avery Dieter in the infields, as Kenny Weiss behind the plate. She's going to be playing college softball in Kalamazoo. You have Kenzie Kimmel, on the mound as well. So when you look at the Central Noble team, Katie Forker in third base, right? Caitlin Tilley, you got a variety of different players that can contribute and be able to play their part extremely well. So you have a lot of depth and some players that you can utilize their strengths very well. Just kind of talk about, for those that don't know Central Noble softball, what makes this team kind of tick, if you would, in terms of the way they perform, the way and the mentality on and off the field.
One of the things that each one of our girls, top to bottom, their softball IQ is very high. And, that contributes to a lot of success. And, from my standpoint on a coaching, I don't have to worry as much because I know what their softball IQ is. They get in the bat, and if they're not, making contact, they know how to adjust themselves. They're smart enough. Out in the field, we don't have to instruct them a lot because, okay, we've got runners here, we got runners here. They're talking. You can hear them talking out on the field as play is happening to each other. And that is a huge relief for me, and knowing that, hey, we're going to be okay. They know what they're doing. They know how to do it, and they will do it. Of course, obviously, we have the luxury of having two really good pitchers. That doesn't happen a lot in a 2A school. So, Kinsey and Grace, and they're both phenomenal. And like you said, Avery at the shortstop, Caitlin over at second, and Katie, over at third. Our outfield has been playing tremendous. One of the things that stands out this year, how our outfield played when we played Angola this year, all 42 outs in the game were defensively recorded. There were no strikeouts by either team. And that's impressive.
Yeah, and that type of defensive surety and IQ is very important when you go into a postseason where you got a lot of parity in that sectional. And one we know for sure in that sectional is East Side, and they have been the top team in the NECC over the last 5 years or so. You look at the schedule, you have a battle-tested schedule. Obviously, the NECC does a good job on their end, but playing the likes of like DeKalb and Bluffton and South Adams, which you beat in a tournament earlier this year. You played North Miami. You played Goshen. You played Columbia City, and you beat them in a 2-0 game. You beat Homestead as well. Homestead's on a solid program of their own as well. And then just on Saturday, just over the weekend, you beat Eastside after being down, I believe, 3-0 going into the 7th inning, and beat the Blazers on the road 4-3, which is a huge confidence booster for your team, especially coming off a loss to Churubusco the day prior and whatnot. So now we go into sectional play. You're going to Prairie Heights in this sectional. You're going to open sectional play against Westview tomorrow. But obviously, as I mentioned earlier, you're likely going to be seeing these teams multiple times. As you know, this sectional is an all NECC sectional, and there's a good chance that, if fortunes go your way, you may have to play Eastside for a third time this year. Just kind of talk about the area of the sectional, and then talk about the importance of that IQ and the attention to detail going into sectional play.
Well, you know what? Sorry about that, Sam. My phone just fell. I'm sitting outside enjoying the weekend. The phone just fell. It is. It's, there are some scary teams in that sectional. We face, like you said, we face Westview tomorrow afternoon. They've played some teams lately, some good teams lately, close. One being Fairfield last week. They played them really close, and it went down to the last inning. You're right. We have faced some really strong competition this year. The North Miamis, the South Adams, the Norwells, the Homesteads, the Columbia City. And again, we've fought in those games, and we've come out well. We get past Westview. I'm worried about Westview, without a doubt. Coach Williams has got a program that at any point can win the ball game. If we get past them, we're going to play Busco. Unfortunately, we all know what happened this past Friday night against Busco. We got down, we battled back, but we just couldn't finish. And then yesterday morning, going to Eastside, it's never easy to win at Eastside or to win against Eastside. But yeah, down 2-0 going into the top of the 7th inning, and we score 4. Avery Dieter had a fabulous line shot down the left field line that scored 2 runs, and that's how we went up 4-2 at that point. But it's a little different sectional look with Lakeland in it. It used to be a 5-team sectional, now it is a 6-team sectional. So we got a couple on the buy side with Busco on the bottom, and then East Side up on the top half of the bracket.
Yeah, and obviously there's some good softball coming up this week for across the area, but particularly here at Prairie Heights, you'll be seeing some good softball for across the NECC tomorrow in that sectional for as Memorial Day comes in, and you have hopefully a competitive softball week as a whole. Final question for me, Coach. Obviously, this year has seen a lot of ups and downs for you. On a personal level, your team has learned a lot this year and whatnot. No matter what happens this week in sectional play, win or lose, how much are you going to remember this season?
It's going to be incredible. The memories are going to be fantastic. From starting out the season, going through all of our preseason things, getting things going, being there a couple games, and then even watching multiple games while I was in the hospital. I've had a couple nurses as I was watching games come in and sit down with me to watch the games, and that was fantastic. And then getting back out there and being on that diamond, being with the girls, hearing the girls, cheering them on, cheering with them, and having all the parents and the fans and the community come to me this season, I will never forget.
That is for sure. And we are still thinking about you and as you continue your recovery with this stroke. Coach, any final thoughts before we let you go?
No, I appreciate your coverage around the Northeast corner. You've done a phenomenal job, and we as coaches, we just enjoy you highlighting our student athletes. Thank you.
Greatly appreciated, Coach. Thank you, and good luck in sectional play.
Yep, thanks. Take care.
Thank you for watching the ANEC Sports Podcast. Please like this video and like the page ANEC Sports on YouTube. Let people know that the ANEC Sports is on YouTube. Also like our Facebook page at Around the Northeast Corner and follow either Around the Northeast Corner and Sam Frick on Twitter/X. We're also on Instagram as well. Just look for ANEC Sports or Around the Northeast Corner and you will find us there. You can also follow the man himself, Sam Frick, the founder and editor at Around the Northeast Corner, for other additional content. This has been an Around the Northeast Corner presentation.